In the name of Allah Almighty, the most beneficent and the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum everyone. It is lecture number 10 of 19th century poetry, and today the topic of our discussion is Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats, and it's a poem by John Keats. In previous class we have studied Ode on a Grecian urn, and today we will cover Ode to a Nightingale. Alright, so the content of our lecture is Introduction of Ode to a Nightingale, selected text of the poem, which I will be explaining in the lecture, and then there is critical analysis of the poem, followed by themes of the poem, and then there is conclusion and references. Alright, starting with introduction, Ode to a Nightingale, as the name shows that Ode means poem and nightingale is a kind of bird. So it means that this poem has been written for a bird, or it is for it is about some bird. And it is one of the five great odes John Keats composed in the summer and autumn of 1819. Like Ode to Autumn, Ode to Nightingale, Ode on a Grecian Urn, and two others. It was first published in July that year in a journal called Annals of the Fine Arts, and subsequently in Keats' third and final publication, Lamia Isabella, The Eve of Saint Agnes and Other Poems, 1820. So this poem was published in a journal that was Annals of the Fine Arts, and it was composed in 1819. Alright, so here we have the text of the poem, which I will be explaining along with the figurative devices and literary devices used in the poem. My heart aches and a drowsy numbness pains my sense as though of hemlock I had drunk. My heart aches. It means that there's a pain in my heart, and and a drowsy numbness pains. So I have such kind of pain in which I feel sleepy and I feel numb, in which numbness is a state in which you do not feel anything, like any pain, any happiness. You are numb, you are still. Alright. So the poet says that my heart is in such a pain that I feel sleepy and I have a pain of numbness, and the pain which I cannot feel. My sense as though of hemlock I had drunk. So my sense is like I have drunk hemlock. Hemlock is a kind of wine. So it is as if I had drank a kind of wine, because of which I have become senseless. So it means that I am not in my senses. This is what is the state of the poet. Or I'm tied some dull opiate to the drains, or it is like that I have just taken or I have drank this opiate. Opiate is from opium, which means it is a flower which cause someone to feel sleepy and become senseless at times, and it is also it comes in the category of you know um, drugs. All right. 1 minute passed, and Leithwards had sung. This not through envy of thy happy lot, but being too happy in thine happiness. And 1 minute passed, like 1 minute has passed, and Leithwards had sung. This not through envy of thy happy Lord. And it is not. Leithwards had sung, like, it is like the day has been passed, and this not because of the envy. Envy means feeling jealous and thinking that the person who is having a blessing, he should be snatched of that blessing, and in return you get that. So that is what is called envy. And the poet says that I am not envy of thy happy Lord. So he is addressing the nightingale. Basically, nightingale is happy, and the poet is saying that it is not because I am just jealous of your happiness, but being too happy in thine happiness, and I also want to be happy in your happiness. And there's a question that why does poet addresses the nightingale? Why was there need to talk to the nightingale? There was a need to talk to nightingale because, according to the poet, nightingale is such kind of bird which is free. I mean, all birds are free, but nightingale is also a symbol of beauty, and it is a beautiful bird. And along with that, birds have freedom; they can fly anywhere, they can go anywhere. Similarly, the poet was envying that thing, that he wished that he could have been that much free as was nightingale, so that he could travel across the world not for the sake of entertainment, but because he wanted to get rid of the life's problems. He wanted to escape from the reality. That is why he wanted to fly on the wings of the nightingale. And it was because of this reason that he said that it is not that I want to take your happiness, but because I want to be happy in your happiness. That thou light winged dryad of the trees, you are so much, uh, you know you are light winged, like dryad of the trees. Your wings are as light as the dry leaves of the trees in some melodious plot of beechen green and shadows numberless. Yes, of beechen green. So in the melodious plot means some kind of melody having a sensuousness to the air. And I just want to go with you, and I want to fly that of beechen green, the beach which are green, and shadows numberless, and there are shadows of the things which are numberless. It means that there are a lot of animals, places along the route on which I want to fly with you. Singest of summer in full toasted ease, I just want to sing the song of the summer in full uh, ease. Oh, for a drought of vintage that had been cooled a long age in the deep delved earth. Yes, drought means like to become dry because of lack of rainfall of vintage. It is a kind of wine. It means that, and it is from wine that is of grapes from which wine is basically produced. So he says that the vine tree from which that wine had been dried, it had been cooled a long age in the deep delved earth. So it had been made cooled in the earth. Tasting of flora and the country green. Like I want to taste the flora. Flora is related to the plant. So I want to enjoy the beauty of the plants and the country green. Dance and provencal song and sunburnt mirth. Sunburnt mirth. It is a kind of oxymoron. Sunburnt is something which is oxymoron is a kind of literary device in which there are two opposite things which are linked together. Sunburnt is something which is dried, which is unhappy, we show some unhappiness, and mirth is happiness. So both are contradictory to one another. Dance and proverbial song and sunburnt mirth. Although we will fly in the sky, and in that we will have a lot, we will face heat of the sun, still that will become make me happy, that will bring me happiness. Or for a beaker full of the warm south, full of the true, the blushful hippocrene. Warm south is a kind of wine. So he says that for the true, or full of the true, the blushful hypocrite is a kind of substance that is added into the wine. And he says that we will have a beaker full of that wine with headed bubbles winking at the brim. So there will be a bubbles who will wink at the brim. Here we have the personification. Who winks? Winks means to just close your one eye in order to tease someone. So he says that bubbles wink. So bubble is given. We have some human-like quality. That is why it is called as personification. With beaded bubbles, will be bubbles will be winking at the brim. A brim is kind of rim at the top of that glass, and purple stained mouth. And after drinking that wine, we'll have a purple color of our mouth that I might drink and leave the world unseen. And this is the kind of wine I would like to drink, and I would leave the world unseen, and I would like to die happily. And with thee, fade away into the forest deep, and along with you, I will uh, just hide myself in the forest. Fade far away, dissolve, and quite forget what thou among the leaves hast never known. The weariness, the fever, and the fret, here where men sit and hear each other groan. So poet is saying that I want to just fly away with you. I want to dissolve into the forest, so that what thou among the leaves hast never known, and that what I have left here in this world, I will be never known. It will be never known to me. The weariness, weariness means tiredness, the fever of the tensions, the problems of this world. So I'll just get rid of all this. Fret means to sweat, like to hard work. So he says that world is a place where men sit and hear each other groan. Groan means to feel pain. where palsy shakes a few sad last gray hairs. Palsy is used for men, and he says that they live for some time and at last they had the gray hairs. Where youth grows pale and spectre thin and dies. Spectre means, human body. So where youth becomes dull and it just grows out and the body become thin and at last the end is died. Where but to think is to be full of sorrow. And here in this place and about this life and death, it is a full of sorrow. And laden eye disappears, and it leads your eyes despair. Where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes. Now beauty is personified as who has eyes. Alright, so beauty cannot last long, or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. And it is like the new love will be refreshed tomorrow. Away, away, for I will fly to thee, nor charioted by Bacchus and his parts. And he say, okay, you just fly and I will fly to you, that wherever you are I would fly with you. I know charioted means to to uh to ride on something. And by Bacchus is a kind of god. It was a Greek god and not charioted by Bacchus and his parts. So I will not be carried on. I will not be riding on along with the Bacchus and his friends, but on the viewless wings of poesy. So I will fly along with you on my wings of poetry. It is through poetry that I will be flying with you. Though the dull pain perplexes and retards, already with thee tender is the night. So whenever I will be with you, so night will be easy for me. Although the dull brain it perplexes, my brain has become dull and it perplexes. But when I will be with you, night will be easy. And happily, the queen moon is on her throne. Happily, the queen moon, like, moon is called as queen. Again, personification is used, clustered around by all her starry face. Starry face means all her, princes along with her. But here there is no light, save what from heaven is with the breezes blown. Through wordless glooms and winding mossy ways. Okay, so what you have is a breeze. That breeze is from the heaven through wordless glooms and winding mossy ways. So you are moving along with that breeze through green forest that had become gloomy, that had become sad, and winding mossy ways. Moss is a kind of a plant. So you are moving through that way. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs. But I embalm darkness, guess each sweet, wherewith the seasonable month endows. The grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild, white hawthorn and the pastoral eglantine, fast fading violets covered up in leaves, and mid-May's eldest child. The coming musk rose full of dewy wine, the murderous haunt of flies on summer eves. So in this stanza, poet talks about that I cannot see that what flowers are at my feet, but I can feel that I can all I also cannot say that what are there on the branches, but I can guess one thing, that each seasonable month and use the grass. It has a shade on the grass, the thicket and the fruit tree wild. With hawthorn, hawthorn is a kind of bird, and the pastoral eglantine is also a bird. Fast fading violets covered up in leaves. Hawthorn and eglantine are flowers, so poet talks about that. They will soon leave their colors, they will just fade away. And mid May's eldest child, the coming musk rose full of dewy wine, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. So there is murmurous, the flies. So he has presented a picture of spring and then there is summer, that what will happen in the spring and what will happen in the summer. So he is talking about the nature and he wants to enjoy all such phenomena of nature. Darkling I listen, and from many a time I have been half in love with easeful death. Okay, darkling I listen. So, like whatever he listens, poet says that for he just want to listen to the songs of Nightingale, and he had been half in love with easeful death. So, by listening the song, he can die easily. Called him soft names in many a muse rhyme to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die to seize upon the midnight with no pain, while thou art pouring forth thy soul abroad in such an ecstasy. So here the poet is talking about the melodious voice of Nightingale, and he's of the view that while listening to the song of Nightingale, he can easily die, he can embrace death with ease, and it will be a state of ecstasy. Ecstasy means madness in such a way in which you are not more connected to the world, and you are in a state of imagination. Still wouldst thou sing, and I have ears in vain to thy high requiem become a sword. Thou wast not born for death, immortal bird, no hungry generations tread thee down. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown. So thou you are not born for death, you immortal bird. It means that you are this bird is immortal because his voice, his memories will stay forever with me. Because for generation, this bird had been musing many years, starting from the emperors and clowns. In the past years, in ancient time, this bird has also entertained the emperor. So that is why this bird is immortal. It is known for the centuries. Okay, perhaps the self-same song that found a path through the sad heart of Ruth when sick for home. This is for Ruth. Yes, she was a kind of, humanitarian who worked for the people. So that is why he says that perhaps the same song had found a path, and it has found its way to the heart, sad heart of Ruth when sick for home. She stood in tears amid the alien corn, that oft times hath charmed magic casement opening on the foam of perilous seas in fairy lands forlorn. Forlorn is a kind of melodious song. So what the poet is talking about in this stanza is that this bird is immortal because he had lived through centuries, like emperors had witnessed and had enjoyed its song. Similarly, it is a source of comfort for the hearts who are sad. Similarly, at times, those who are mm, okay, so at times perilous means sad. So it has become a source of comfort for everything in this world. Forlorn, the very word is like a bell. You toll me back from thee to my soul's self. So when I say that this forlorn, this is a kind of, that sleeping song when we hear from our parents. So it means that this is something which gives us peace, comfort. So to toll me back from thee to my soul's self. So this is the song which brought me back from you to my own self. Audio, the fancy cannot cheat so well. Goodbye, this imagination cannot cheat me well, as she is framed to do, like she has framed to deceive everyone, like fancy's imagination, deceiving elf, everyone. Audio, audio, thy plaintive anthem faints. The simple anthem, the simple song of this nightingale fades past the near meadows, and it is like it is passing the meadows over the still stream up the hillside, and now it's buried deep in the next valley glades. Was it a vision or a waking dream? Flood is that music. Do I wake or sleep? So the poet says that I have no idea whether I was in imagination or I was sleeping, and I had heard this song in my dream. So I have no idea was it imagination or was it dream. So it is something, a poet is in that state of unconsciousness in which he is unable to distinguish whether that song was really sung by the nightingale or was it a dream, and was it imagination, because he is in that much pain that he cannot even differentiate between what is happening. So that was the poem. Here we have the critical analysis of the poem. This is something you can read yourself. Okay, let me read it first. This line, the speaker opens with a declaration of his own heartache. He feels numb as though he had taken a drug only a moment ago. He is addressing a nightingale he hears singing somewhere in the forest, and says that his drowsy numbness is not from envy of the nightingale's happiness, but rather from sharing it too completely. He is too happy that the nightingale sings the music of summer from amidst some unseen plot of green trees and shadows. In the second stanza, the speaker longs for the oblivion of alcohol. Oblivion means, unclear, something which is unclear. and he wants the alcohol to make him to bring unconsciousness in him, expressing his wish for wine, a draught of vintage that would taste like the country and like peace in dances, and let him leave the world unseen and disappear into the dim forest with the nightingale. In the third stanza, he explains his desire to fade away, saying he would like to forget the troubles the nightingale has ever known, never known, the weariness, the fever, and the fret of human life with its unconsciousness that everything is mortal and nothing lasts. Youth grows pale and spectre thin and dies, and beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes. So he would just want to fade away along with the nightingale, fade into the forest. In the fourth stanza, the speaker tells the nightingale to fly away, and he will follow, not through alcohol, nor charioted by Bacchus and his bards, but through poetry, which will give him viewless wings. He says he is already with the nightingale and describes the forest glade, where even the moonlight is hidden by the trees, except the light that breaks through when the breezes blow the branches. In the fifth stanza, the speaker says that he cannot see the flowers in the glade but can guess them in embalmed darkness, white hawthorn, eglantine violets, and the musk rose, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. In the sixth stanza, the speaker listens in the dark to the nightingale, saying that he has often been half in love with the idea of dying and called death soft names in many rhymes, surrounded by the nightingale's song. The speaker thinks that the idea of death seems richer than ever, and he longs to seize upon the midnight with no pain, while the nightingale pours its soul uh, ecstatically forth. If he were to die, the nightingale would continue to sing, he says, but he would have ears in vain and be no longer able to hear. In the seventh stanza, I am just reading the slides because I have already explained the text, so I'm just reading it just to give you an overview. The speaker tells the nightingale that it is immortal, that it was not born for death. He says that the voice he hears singing has always been heard by ancient emperors and clowns, by homesick truth. He even says that songs has often charmed upon open magic windows looking out over the foam of perilous seas in fairy lands forlorn. In the eighth stanza, the word forlorn tolls like a bell to restore the speaker from his preoccupation with the nightingale and back into himself as the nightingale flies farther away from him. He laments that his imagination has failed him, and says that he can no longer recall whether the nightingale's music was a vision or a waking dream. Now that the music is gone, the speaker cannot recall whether he himself is awake or asleep. So here we have the themes. First we have the power of imagination, theme of the power of imagination. This is not a poem about how a bird's joyful singing inspires and revitalizes. Revitalizes means re-energizes the poet. Instead, what follows is a troubled meditation on the power of human imagination to encounter joy within the world and for it to transform the soul. It means that it is the power of imagination, that through imagination you can just get rid of your suffering, you can just get rid of your pain, and instead you feel happy because you imagine the beautiful scenes, beautiful things in your imagination. That is the power of imagination. This is what Keats has done in this poem. Theme of escape. The poet imagines escaping from humanity's tragic existence, where youth grows pale and spectre thin and dies, first through an ecstasy of intoxication, drinking a beaker full of the warm south, and then on the viewless wings of poesy, that this is through imagination itself. So he wants to escape time and again. This is what he had presented, that I want to escape from these harsh realities of the life, and there is a theme of escape as a result. This theme of death, the poem also contains images associated with death, such as hemlock, lath, embalmed, darkness, requiem, tolling bell, plaintive anthem. When associated with palsy, fret, and disappears, death is a negative presence that quenches the human spirit. But death also has positive associations. It is easeful, a rich experience which releases the poet into a pain-free eternity. So there are images of death, death in the form of hemlock, lath, embalmed. All right. So he wanted to die. He wanted to have relief from this world of harsh realities, and when he could not die, he just started that situation in his imagination, that he no longer belongs to this world and he just wants to escape with the Nightingale. So, to conclude, I would like to say that the tone of the poem rejects the optimistic pursuit of pleasure found within Keats' earlier poems and instead explores the themes of nature, transience, and mortality, the latter being particularly relevant to Keats. The Nightingale described experiences a type of death but does not actually die. If we compare this poem with other poems of Keats, so we will find that other poems are optimistic, having positive message, but this poem is not positive. It has some, optimistic, and then there is optimism. In the beginning, he just wanted to escape from that life's reality, and there is positivity in a sense that he, when he flew, and he just said that I want to fly with you on the wings of the poetry. So it means that he wanted to get rid of all the life's reality and wanted to enjoy another life. So if we talk about, so in this poem, the poets, it's he did not experience death in reality, but he had just imagined that how he would have felt when he died or when he escaped this world.